Good day everyone, I'm Nicolei Balbas, and in this video I'm gonna talk about the Krashen's theory about the second language acquisition. But before that, let's get to know Krashen first. Stephen Krashen was born on May 14, 1941. He is an American linguist, educational researcher, and an activist. Stephen Krashen is an expert in linguistics, specializing in language acquisition and development theories. Since 1980, he has published over 100 books and articles. Stephen Krashen first presented the well-known theory in the 1970s. This theory is initially based on 5 hypotheses. The first one is the acquisition-learning hypothesis. The second one is the monitor hypothesis. The third one is the natural order hypothesis. The fourth one is the input hypothesis. And the fifth one is the affective filter hypothesis. Let us first discuss the first hypothesis, which is the acquisition-learning hypothesis. According to Krashen, in terms of foreign language performance, there are two fundamental approaches: acquisition and learning. The acquisition seems to be the authentic and the natural process of languages, like people acquire their native language as a child through genuine exposure and natural communication. At the same time, learning refers to the process in which individuals try to learn a second language through mastery in the conscious process. The second hypothesis is the monitor hypothesis. The monitor hypothesis suggests a tendency to monitor or self-correct one's language production based on the language rules and principles acquired by the learner. This could seem to happen when some specific conditions are met. Learners must be focused, take their time, and know the language rule to monitor their production. This appears to be more applicable when it comes to writing, since it can cause frequency, pauses, an ever-rising tendency to self-correction that leads to unnaturalness in speech. The third hypothesis is the natural order hypothesis. This hypothesis offers a potential order in which children pick up their native language. According to Krashen, the same predictable order appears to be applied by learners of English as a second language. This practical order must be considered to avoid frustration for teachers and students who must be ready to go to the next step of learning process. The fourth hypothesis is the input hypothesis. This notion, also known as the comprehension hypothesis, indicates that the level of the language learner are exposed to is required to be higher than their language level. To put it in another way, I+1 needs to be considered. Providing a higher or lower input does not seem to be great use for learner. It may result in anxiety, lack of motivation, and disappointment. Additionally, no learning takes place while the information does not require any attempts to be comprehended. The fifth and the last hypothesis is the affective filter hypothesis. This hypothesis emphasizes the value of self-confidence, motivation, and a positive self-image in the second language acquisition. This premise also embodies the devastating impact of anxiety and stress on language learning, lack of motivation, and assertiveness. In addition to high anxiety level, form a filter or mental block that affects the language production and output quality. To recap, perhaps the most neglected critical point is the effect of the learner's native language on the second language learning acquisition process. It might be hard for a person who has never been a learner of English to assume that one's native language is much more than just a way of communication. Language may well form a considerable part of the individual's ideology. They perform like a monitor which spontaneously adopts the second language output with grammatical rules, order, and collocation of first language. And that's the 5 hypotheses of Mr. Stephen Krashen. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something about the theory of the second language acquisition.